Hi, are you looking to expand your musical tastes, or maybe you're just curious about metal and you're not sure where to start? I got you. Let's check out the metal genre. Let's jump in. So I just stumbled upon this thread on the subreddit r/metalcore where someone was asking the following. It's a long question, but bear with me. I am currently expanding my music tastes. I listen to a ton of rap, R&B, jazz, blues, reggae, funk, soul, and I've been getting into rock and indie folk with albums such as Dark Side of the Moon and Sufjan Stevens' Javelin. I've been trying to give all genres an earnest try. That being said, I tried to listen to Lonely People with Power by Deaf Heaven, and it's the first album in my genre journey that I don't understand what people like about it. From the vocals to the instrumentation, it kind of all sounded the same with slight variations. Am I supposed to not be able to understand their words? I also don't really care for the vocals, but I don't know if I'm supposed to. It feels like I'm just being screamed at. LOL. I assume it's like alcohol, where you can't tell the difference between the notes of different bourbons until you've developed a palate for it. I have no friends who listen to this genre, so can you guys explain to me what you like about metal and what makes it special so I can try listening again with a different perspective before making an opinion? Any recommendations that can get a newbie into the genre would also be appreciated. So, there was this comment about, am I supposed to care about the vocals? Absolutely you should. The vocals are a cornerstone of any genre, just as much in metal. Of course, there's instrumental metal, but we're not talking about that today. We're just trying to get you into metal as a genre. The vocals are important, and if they're not for you, move on. Just with any other genre, do the same. The thing with metal is it has so many subgenres, you can basically choose what style of vocal you enjoy and go further down the rabbit hole. With that out of the way, I would suggest some subgenres that are way easier to get into at first, and then you work your way up the heaviness scale. Metal might just not be for you, and that's okay. If you don't get it, that's fine. Move on with your life, enjoy what you enjoy. However, let's go down the rabbit hole. I'm going to start with some bands and albums, and I'm going to go more and more heavy and weird as the list goes on. So feel free to see what you dig, and if you're new to metal, please report back. I would love to hear what you think. Leave a comment down below. Let's start with an easy entry point. Linkin Park. The first two albums, Hybrid Theory and Meteora, are such an easy entry point. They've got already a lot of the crossover things that this person that was asking the comment, asking the subreddit, it's already got a lot of those elements in there. It's got a lot of hip hop. It's got a lot of other stuff in there. And it's not super heavy. It's super catchy. It's super melodic. And they're frankly just great all-around records. So start there. Recommendation number 2 for the entry is Metallica's self-titled album. This is a little bit less pop, but still got those pop structures and definitely a lot more metal in the true sense of the word. It's not thrash as their earlier albums, which are very fast and very angry and abrasive comparatively, but it is still nonetheless a little bit heavier overall than Linkin Park. It's a metal classic and a must listen for anyone, in my humble opinion, and you might even know a song or two. Next down the list is System of a Down, specifically the albums Mesmerize and Hypnotize. They're weird and crazy experimental metal meeting pop sensibilities. They have a lot of catchy tunes, especially on those two albums. You'll probably also know some stuff on there. From here, let's get slightly heavier. This next bunch of albums and bands is what was my entry point to screaming and growling in the more extreme side of metal. That being said, there's other genres that I'm not going to touch upon all that much, such as like true heavy metal and like the melodic kind of side of metal with the old school stuff like Iron Maiden and Sabbath and all that. I don't think that's an easy way to get into what is modern metal. And also, I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of like power metal and all that stuff. I feel like these genres have become more niche as time goes on. So I'm going to skip those. That being said, slightly more heavier stuff. Let's start with Bullet for My Valentine's The Poison. This is what we call metalcore these days, or what started the modern metalcore kind of thing. It's definitely not the starting point for metalcore as a whole, because that was way earlier in the 90s, but this is what I would describe as pop structures, pop sensibilities with the melodies meets riffs. Proper riffs that appeal to someone that is new to the genre. This is what got me into metalcore and the whole heavier metal aspect, and what made me want to pick up the guitar and learn that shit. Yeah, it's got a lot of catchy tunes, catchy melodies, amazing riffs. It's a bit of an all-rounder, and it's a fan favorite for a reason. And I wouldn't even argue it's a classic these days. From there, I would recommend Trivium's Ascendancy. It's all that I mentioned about The Poison, but slightly heavier, slightly faster, a bit angrier, a bit more thrashy and abrasive, but just as much of a classic as The Poison. There is a reason why Trivium and Bullet for My Valentine are touring the world together currently, celebrating the 20-year anniversary of those two albums. A lot of people got into metal through those two albums. You might just as well. From there, I would also just a quick shout out to both Trivium's In Waves and Shogun. Those are two albums that are dear to my heart. Doesn't necessarily mean they're the best entry point or not, though In Waves might just be. It's even more melodic than the albums I mentioned just now. But they're great records nonetheless, and I recommend you check them out. More along the lines of those entry-heavy points, I would say Killswitch Engage's Daylight Dies, specifically the song My Curse. Then I would also recommend Architects' Lost Forever, Lost Together. And someone in the comments on Reddit said, it's a crime that I didn't mention, what was the album name? A Match Made in Heaven. Also an amazing album, but I think the list was long enough as it was. So great recommendation as well. Match Made in Heaven, Lost Forever, Lost Together. And finally, I would also mention Parkway Drive. In my opinion, a quintessential metalcore band. And I would recommend specifically the album Ire. The albums before are also some of my favorites, but I think Ire is easier to get into. If you like that, work your way backwards. Let's get a little more heavier. Let's talk about Slipknot, specifically their first 3, maybe 4 albums. Slipknot, Iowa, Volume 3, Subliminal Verses, and oh my god, I have to look that up. All Hope Is Gone. How did I forget that? Those 4 albums, I think, are a really great way to get into more extreme sides of metal. Let me explain why. While Slipknot often gets classified as new metal, I wouldn't worry about that genre title thing too much. They made extreme metal mainstream. What I mean by that is they had, through Corey Taylor singing, such a catchy approach to vocals, both heavy and melodic, that it was okay for drummer Joey Jordison to play blast beats and get the guitarists to do tremolo picking, which was not a thing in metal up to that, in more mainstream metal genres up to that point. Iowa is probably the heaviest #1 album that I have ever heard. It is ridiculously heavy, and it has so many influences from extreme metal, such as death and grindcore and stuff like that, that just wasn't prevalent in the genre before, but has now been normalized through their influence. So checking out those albums is a great way to start. You don't have to listen to every song on all those albums. Feel free to skip around, but I think that's a great way to get into the slightly heavier aspects of metal. From there, try out the band Lamb of God. Lamb of God is a band that is very well known for their groovy approach to metal, as is the band that will follow. They have an amazing singer, amazing lyrics, and it's just all around a bit more deathy, a bit more thrashy, less melodic, less pop, weird song structures. You'll find a lot of more of that stuff. Specifically, I would suggest the album Wrath, which is my favorite Lamb of God album, and then Sacrament, which is a bit more high production, a bit more polished. Let's start with those two. And from there, I would suggest the album Blackening, The Blackening by Machine Head. This is, again, a bit more thrashy, a bit more groovy, but all around great songwriting and great melodies, but a very specific vocal style. You won't find anyone that sounds like Rob Flynn, and you certainly won't find an album that is as catchy as it is long. So start with The Blackening if you're going to go down the Machine Head hole. Machine Head hole, that sounds wrong. The Machine Head rabbit hole. Moving on. Heavier. Let's go heavier. From this point on, we're getting into death and prog and death metal, deathcore, tech, gent, all of that stuff. Any of the bands that you'll find from here on out is going to be extreme one way or another, be it through sheer heaviness or through sheer complexity. It's extreme. Here's some bands that I named off the top of my head. The first one was Fit for an Autopsy. This is a deathcore band in the most modern sense of the word. There's not a lot of like super slow breakdowns, even though they are featured in their music. But this is more alongside of like the true death metal roots, but with a lot of groove and a lot of sensibility in their songwriting. It's very well structured songs, but with super heavy music and topics that are also just as heavy. The album that I would recommend is The Great Collapse, and honestly, any album after that. They're that great. I love this band. Moving on from that, I want to suggest the band Periphery, specifically the album Periphery 2, This Time It's Personal. They are trailblazers in what we call gent these days. Of course, there's Meshuggah before them and all that, but I'm not going to get into history of that. But Periphery is what made that kind of sound popular in today's metal. They are not just trailblazers in the genre itself, but also when it comes to production and production sensibilities, they have made a lot of musicians aware of what a good production can sound like and how nerdy the whole scene actually is. So Periphery 2 is heavy, proggy, weird, poppy, all of those apply. So check that one out. From there, let's go down the slightly even more extreme. Let's listen to Whitechapel, specifically their self-titled album. They are the kings of deathcore. They are angry, introverted, maybe even depressed, yet super heavy. It's a classic amongst deathcore fans, and their newest release proves that they're still just as capable. I think it's even heavier, the newest one, and I'm still wrapping my head around it. I did a review of the full album on my channel, so feel free to check that out. One more album that I want to mention is the album Epitaph by Necrophagist. They are a German tech death band, and this album is the blueprint of what is tech death today. Find me any extreme technical death metal band today that isn't influenced by this album, and I'll show you a liar. This album is quintessential tech death, and there's no band that plays tech death and doesn't worship this. Believe me, start there. And I think I'll leave it at that. This is only a short list for you to try out and see where you land, and I would love it if you left your thoughts down below in the comments. If this list was helpful to you, or at the very least interesting, please subscribe, like this video, and I will see you soon. That's it. Take care.